Yeah, did we start yet?
I think we did. Wait, start what?
I don't know.
We live.
Well, my screen just went like I had to log in again. Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Oh
Like,
wow.
so I don't know
No,
what was going on, but we
it
are back here
back.
Saturday afternoon, Sabbath afternoon, worship and word conversations. We kick off our shoes, but kick off most of the time we don't even have shoes on.
I wear Crocs. I wear
And
Crocs in the house.
I wear Van slides. So we're just here. This is where we take, man, we just really work on making biblical living practical.
Yeah.
So our conversations go all over the place in Jesus' name. And we are so glad that you are here. Cerise checking in. Aaron saying hey. Miguel is with us and his squad. Lana is with us. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, everybody's with us. So glad to finally be with you again. Wife's upstairs. So hanging out with us. She says, hey,
Shout out to
everybody.
the Kingmaker.
Yeah. And then Miguel says, listen, we not wearing shoes. We at home. We not wearing shoes. We not. It's not happening. No. Why? Why?
Yeah, I don't want to.
You grew up in a house where you took off your shoes when you came in the house. Like, take your shoes off.
It's weird. I wear socks. Like I can't. I don't know. I can't. But
Your feet don't sweat?
We got tile. We got tile in the house.
Oh,
Nah,
okay.
nah.
Well, so it is Miami. It makes sense.
And I use those dry fit like athletic joints too, though. So.
Expensive joints.
Yeah, I mean, we the ones, but we wear the socks with the sandals, though. That's just what we do, man. You know?
That's true. That's true. That's true. Carlos checking in with us on YouTube. Carmela with us. Good afternoon, man. So excited to hop into our conversation.
Yeah.
Today, you see the title, "The Way of the Shepherd." It's really book notes. We're gonna talk about a book that I read in seminary and give like the high level of that, the application of that book beyond seminary, beyond life. Because even though I read the book in seminary, it's a business book. It's interesting how we didn't read enough business books in seminary, but that's a different conversation.
Or at least management books, right?
Yeah, but we're gonna find some deep application, especially to what's going on in the world right now, all over. So we got adjustment to we're trying to get people in school, the whole vaccine thing. We got Afghanistan. We have hurricane coming to New Orleans. It's a lot going on around the world. And one of the things that really weighs heavy on us is, especially if you are in charge of or leading a group of people, how do you treat those people, especially in crazy times? And the Way of the Shepherd talks about that. And we'll dive into that in just a bit. But man, anybody coming back off of vacation? Now we know Chris needs to go on vacation, y'all. Chris needs to seriously go on a vacation.
Hey, y'all give me suggestions. Listen, I ain't talking about no little stay. Like I'm talking about vay.
Oh, you trying to get it like you trying to grab your passport?
I'm trying to. Oh shoot, I gotta take my. But yes, that's what we on. Yes. Okay. So y'all
suggestions for open countries.
Yep.
Let us know, man. You might have to go to Europe, man.
You know what?
You might take a Europe trip.
10. Been 10 years since I went.
Check out Fly Glitch. I think it's Fly Glitch.
Okay.
.com, I think. Carmela says another week off starting Monday.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Okay, they coming in. They cut. Look. Okay. Evan is like just got back from VI. Lana, are you coming back from Turks and Caicos, or is that a suggestion? Is that both? Man, Turks and Caicos, VI. Cerise said, just go to Mexico, man.
I heard that's what that's the I heard that's like the little spot.
Yeah,
little spot of the last. Yeah. Okay.
So we got a couple of coming in. If you got hookups on flights or some website or whatever with Chris, get a package deal. Go ahead. Oh, Lana said that was a suggestion to go to Turks and Caicos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm overdue for like one of those mileage programs. I ain't had one of those in a minute.
It's time, man.
We gonna start this new chapter right.
Yeah. What chapter is this? What happened? There were some folks who weren't on yesterday.
This is true. This is true. But
Yeah.
my the reptilian brain went, dang, he petty. 36. It's not. That's not. It's not.
You don't get the full because we did the full.
Oh wow!
Oh, my bad.
You just as disrespectful as Carlise yesterday.
Yeah. See, Carlise was like, "You can't go to AY no more." That was hilarious. So for all of you who weren't hanging out with us yesterday, Chris had a birthday, BURF day.
AY.
Yeah, the big 36.
Yeah,
the big 36. So
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. How do you feel? I didn't ask you that yesterday. How do you feel about turning 36?
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank those who listen, man. I feel like my body needs more rest than I think it does. I'm in the space where I realize that in order to do great things, I need to have sufficient rest, y'all.
Man.
Like I can't just get up and go. Like,
bro, I'm taking multivitamin.
Listen,
zinc multivitamin. I'm taking my zinc tablets every day. I'm taking my vitamin C. Like it's not a game. It's not a game out here.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I think one of the biggest revelations is, don't laugh at me, Cerise. The biggest revelation is rest. I'm out here talking about we closing rings, yo. Cerise, man, I'm closing these rings, bro. But man, it's getting a little winded.
I ain't had my watch on for 2 days, so.
Man,
you tell.
I was like, yeah, the little
I haven't had my watch on for 2 days.
I'm gonna start getting on you, man, because
yeah. Elliot Brooks is with us.
Oh, appreciate it, man.
Belated birthday. Yeah, man.
It was. I was real low key all week about it until you decided to bring. I probably wouldn't even brought it up yesterday. So
man, it's Facebook's fault, man.
Nah, I took that joint. Off Facebook.
No, it was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
Dang.
Cerise laughing at me.
Okay.
You taking Centrum for women or whatever it is, Cerise. You got everybody got their multivitamins. What's the big vitamin company that?
Isn't it Centrum Silver or something like that?
I don't know. But hey, it's what we got to do. Especially as you get older, you just realize, man, my body doesn't function the way. First, man, I should have been better to my body earlier on. 2, it doesn't function the same way. You got to treat it. You treat it differently. You got to let that car warm up a little bit before you
just can't get up and go.
They just get up and go. Let that car warm up. Elliot said flaxseed. Yeah. Yo, let me ask y'all. If y'all take is there, besides a multivitamin, what supplements do you take? So Elliot's like flaxseed. I don't know if he's joking. We talked about Epsom salt last night.
We did.
You talking about your birthday after the fact. So
listen, let me tell you what hurts more. The fact that you tell me it's on Facebook and I ain't getting no love on it. That now it stings a little bit because I actually took all that stuff off. I was like,
you sure? Maybe it was on LinkedIn.
Maybe it was LinkedIn. But don't tell me it was on there and I ain't getting no. That would just break my heart. Oh my gosh.
I'm coming back to my watch. All right, I'm coming back. So what happened was, Cerise, when I got back from Oregon, I did not unpack the charger cord from my watch. So yeah.
Oh, by the way, life update. My Ethernet cord actually works, y'all. So as y'all know, it was like 4 months ago, maybe, when it was plugging in the Ethernet cord directly into the internet, because we talked about, remember, we had Wi-Fi rules before. We talked about the direct connect, where the Ethernet, Pierre, actually you talked about this.
Yeah.
The Ethernet it takes priority. Internet gives the Ethernet cord, the direct connection, priority over the Wi-Fi. Oh, he broke it down.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I talked about my service experience with Apple, and they're like, oh, we're going to go through all of the steps with you and da-da-da-da-da. And they even followed up. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is great. After a while, they stopped following up. And I was just like, oh, so y'all just going to leave me hanging high and dry? Well,
by yourself.
Yep, all by myself. I had but the adapter that I was previously using to plug in all of my ports, because y'all know with the MacBooks, you don't have a lot of ports. So, they got things that you can use to have more ports. Anyway, it has an Ethernet port. but that Ethernet port was not taking in. It wasn't taking in the power, y'all. It wasn't taking in the connection. So there was a connection, there was a port, but there was no internet. And then this week I got a new one, y'all. And nothing was ever wrong.
I need an organ sound.
Nothing was wrong with my computer.
Okay.
Nothing was wrong with the Ethernet cord.
Let's preach.
Nothing was wrong with the internet.
Yeah.
It was the connection between the internet and my computer.
The power is there. The data is there. Yeah. The opportunity is there.
Yes.
But you got to have the right.
All of the other ports were working.
Ooh. Listen.
Except for the port I needed.
Okay. Yeah. See? Yep. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
We run it. Man, let's get some of these vitamins. All right, turkey tail mushrooms. Is that like a supplement?
That sounds like a dish.
Do I have to go on dark web? Like, where do I get turkey tail mushrooms, and what is it good for? Let me know. All right. Cerise gave us the whole
back up, Lana. That does not sound vegan friendly.
It's a mushroom.
It is a mushroom, but the beginning of it sounded like
turkey tail mushrooms.
Yeah.
Do you soak the mushrooms in turkey tails? Is that what you said? Right.
The neck bone of the turkey tails.
You're right. Man, so the medical professionals giving us the full rundown.
Yes.
Multivitamin B complex, C, zinc, and D. Man, the last 4 helps immune. Okay. Y'all write these down. Okay. Get your multivitamins. That's why some of us are a little sluggish, because we're not taking our vitamins. It's a mushroom. Yeah, it's a mushroom. I don't even know how we got on that tangent. Y'all talking about Christmas birthday.
That's what it was. Me feeling old. Well, not me feeling old. Me needing more rest.
Taking care of yourself. Yeah, that's so important. Yeah. So I think I want to transition to, as we talk about taking care of ourselves, and we take care of ourselves to be in a better position to take care of the people around us. So I want to ask, in the circles and the spaces and places where you live, work, and play, what's the big thing that everybody's talking about or worried about? What is it? The big thing that everybody's talking about, everybody's worried about in your circles where you hang out. For me, Chris, a lot of people are on the back to school thing. Not just parents that I know, but like clients, higher education clients, getting students back to school. What's the procedure? What does vaccination look like? What's distancing? What, faculty, staff, students that have these conditions don't feel comfortable being in the classroom, even though they've been vaccinated, some scary, all these things, adverse reactions, like everything COVID vaccination and school related is what people who I talk to a lot are talking about right now.
For me, in addition to that, it's really everything that you kind of brought up in the beginning when we just did the introduction. But the Afghanistan evacuation. I just came across something on social media that apparently President Biden used biblical reference to support his military retaliation, and
it was terrible, bro.
Yeah. So there's man, no, I'm not gonna talk about it here, but I will say
party.
Yeah, but I will say that that's one of the things we've been talking about as well, is the fact that there's no control.
Yeah,
there's really no control over the situation, and there hasn't been over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, a lot of us have forgotten history, how we got to this point.
Yeah, this ain't nothing new, y'all. It's not even 20 years old. It's just that when we U.S. decided to step in, like, we didn't understand the history of other countries
which is often the case.
So, but yeah, that's one of the things.
We're not trying to have the channel shut down, so we're gonna speak.
Yeah. Right. God bless America. So Lana says in her circle, COVID-19, the Delta variant, Afghanistan as well, and wildfires.
Yeah, I was just. Thanks for bringing that up, Lana. I was just in Oregon, and like you smell it. You smell it in the air, the burning.
Yeah.
Got family members in the South. So as it relates to the hurricane that is making landfall tomorrow, I believe, just kind of reading on social. I was reading on social media earlier how locked interstate locked up, traffic jams, people trying to figure out what we're gonna do, where we're gonna go, versus people who say we're gonna stay, and how we're treating people who say they want to stay. Like where people are coming from as it relates. And it was one thread I was looking at, Chris, and it was talking about, be easy with condemning people who say they want to stay, even though a hurricane is coming, because some of these people, and are, the thinking about Katrina, are thinking about, they were talking about staying with relatives that took their money, that abused them, that, not getting the support that they needed, coming home. And even though maybe the storm didn't take their home, but coming home to a vandalized home and not having a sense of peace and safety. And it was, really one of those kind of social media rants. Be careful of judging people because you don't completely understand their decision. Or only have part of the story. And I think that advice goes for just about everything we've talked about so far. Be careful of our judgments of people and how they're responding, because we don't know, what's triggering that particular response.
And then there's the other side of the spectrum of just folk just being entitled and not wanting to, be considerate of other people's well-being.
Well, listen.
But we on Facebook, so we ain't gonna.
So we got Delta variant, all that surrounds that. I work at an elementary school, and the reason why I brought this one up is because, that concern about other people and how we wrestle with that. We got kids involved, we got adults involved, paraprofessionals, administrators, the educators. It's a lot, and people are. It wasn't like we had the best emotional health before all of this.
It's true. It just revealed. Just really just pulled the covers.
Off
of what was pre-existing.
Yep.
What did they say the pandemic before COVID was? Depression?
Yeah, I think like loneliness, depression and loneliness.
So
in this social digital media age, we are all, so many people suffering from depression and loneliness. So, man, let me tell you, I was working with a client, and we were doing an executive training session, and one of the persons said, an administrator, he said, man, I felt like I've been by myself for 18 months. So just to, be in a place and see people, like it's so good for me, because those feelings I've been fighting for 18 months of feeling like I was alone. And how, many of us, and we've talked about that too, as well on this. Cerise, nursing shortages, crisis money. Should we chase it? Are we gonna get it or not? Our governments, our governors gonna, what does that look like? We got eviction. We're on the edge of major evictions. It's crazy. And then, like, why do we have to be in crisis mode for us to help people or recognize the worth of individuals?
Hey, listen, one of my nursing buddies, she was like, listen here, because she has a startup. She's like, listen here, if I go back, I don't know if I will continue with my stuff. She's like, yo, they are, at least down here, like some of the base, I don't know if you want to call them salaries, but $10K a week.
Man.
A week.
Listen.
There's only certain amount of jobs that we know that are questionable that you get paid $10K a week.
Listen, you got the MBA. I didn't. So I could add a little bit.
You don't need an MBA to know them kind of jobs I'm talking about. The point is, when she talks about knowing the worth, man, like,
yep.
I wonder what it's gonna take for teachers.
What? Oh, that's a bit. That's right? So good.
Like, because here's the thing, right?
That's good.
God bless America, but America's dumb. Like, when you look at the global, like just the literacy rate and just everything
compared to every other country,
we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of almost every list. And if not rock bottom, we are near it. And
students in other countries go to school less, are learning like 6 languages in school 4 hours a day, 4 days a week.
We're privileged. A lot of it, I really just think it's not our mental capacity. I just think that we're privileged, you know. And
entitlement is
the thief of a lot. I know you're gonna say it's a thief. It's a thief.
Woo!
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, Cerise, you hit that on the money, because it does take crises in order for us to realize, and the crisis, if the crisis doesn't hit the emotional security, financial security, or physical well-being of the privileged, then nothing will change. So now you got folk, whether on either side of the party line or people who are just affluent people, you know, they getting hit too. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, we need to encourage. We need to keep those who are already doing the. Yeah. So crisis that doesn't impact people of means doesn't reveal or doesn't encourage those who were overlooked to reflect the same value that those who were affluent have. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my mind.
Man, and you got some challenges where people are looking at the news now, and we're looking at the let's see, how do we place this? The destabilization of livelihood that has occurred over decades in other parts of the world, right? So you have people looking at that and celebrating, yes, we need to help, reach out, send resources. Yeah. At the same time, you're having people who look at our country and say, wait a minute, we've also been destabilizing the livelihood of certain groups of individuals for centuries. And where is the resolve to come to the aid, rescue of or support? So we have it across socioeconomic lines. We have it as we look at certain industry, nurses, you talked about teachers, but then when we look at marginalization, like where's the plane? Where's the aid? Yeah. And why does it have to be a crisis mode? That statement, why did it have to get to a crisis mode for them to recognize our worth? We're extending it not just to our nurses like Cerise, but across the board. Yeah. We're having questions and conversations around the worth of people, but it's only happened as a result of a catalyst that
it's impacting everyone across the board.
Yep. Lana said in the Bay Area, air quality is horrific. So we just gonna do the mask, like. Right. So we still got COVID, anti-vax, safety increases in just swirling, and like you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. It's all around us. Now, that being said, the realities of what we have to deal with, every single person hanging out with us or watching the replay of this, we have a responsibility in a wider community, but we also have a responsibility to people who are closer to us in terms of family, in terms of friends, in terms of people who work with us and for us. Yeah. And how do we support them in whatever the crisis is, whatever the environment is? If the framework is that they're looking to us for leadership or guidance, what are some of the ways that we provide that? And that kind of brings us to our conversation on this book, The Way of the Shepherd. See if I pull it up here.
It's a great segue, by the way.
Man, I'm trying.
Masterful.
All right, so here's the book, The Way of the Shepherd, 7 Secrets to Managing Productive People And this is a book that I read in seminary. I believe the class was Introduction to Pastoral Ministry.
Okay.
I believe it was Intro to Pastoral Ministry or Pastoral Administration. It was like one of the first books I read in seminary. One of the few books I read all the way through. It's wild in the streets. You taking 16 graduate credits, and every class has 4 books. And you remember the professors that made you write those statements. I read all 700 pages of this book as a sign of my integrity and willingness to be honest.
Be like, so
My willingness.
I was so segue, man. We're gonna have a lot of segues today. So grad school, though, is it really designed to read all of the books, or to learn how to search for the main points and get what you? Because I learned that lesson from D Stain. You already know. She was like, listen.
D Stain was like, stop trying to read.
Stop. It is not. That is not the purpose.
It's like, I'm not even reading. When you write it, I'm not reading all.
Man, I had the privilege of seeing her go to work, as we're talking about, leading and seeing her example of what it was like to do one of the hardest parts of your research paper, which is the literature review.
The lit review.
Chapter 4. Yep. And the way that she did it was just so... It was almost like she was cheating, bro. I thought... I didn't know you could do it like that.
I didn't either.
Anyway, all of that to say, because of her example and me seeing it, actually helped me to navigate grad school a little better.
Look at Lana.
Yes.
The art, the fine art. There's a meme, right? There's a meme that I saw on social media, and one of them is like it's like Winnie the Pooh. One is Winnie the Pooh, just regular old Winnie the Pooh, and it's when you're working on something and you don't know the answer. Mm-hmm. So Winnie the Pooh dressed regularly says, I don't know the answer. But then the other one is like when you're trying to write it for a grad school paper or something, and it's Winnie the Pooh dressed up in a coat and a monocle and a top hat. And the phrase is, before it was like, I don't know the answer. The bottom is, that is beyond the scope of this paper.
Yeah, that's good. This chapter 5. Further conversation was like further discussions or
is needed, right? Like, bro, I don't know.
Man.
So this is one of the books. What was interesting though about this book, Chris, is when I got to Maryland to pastor at Breath of Life, this book was on the shelf. There was a few copies on the shelf. I guess the elders had gone through the book sometime prior, before I got there. So I was reminded of just how heavy, and it's short. It's written in a fable style, but it's very, very powerful. And it's a business book, but the book uses ancient principles. Now, typically when you go to a book and it's talking about leveraging ancient principles, it's talking about leveraging a religious construct.
I was gonna say, how ancient we talking? Gnostic first century? Because you went in yesterday. You went in. If y'all didn't catch yesterday.
Whenever you see a book that talks about leveraging ancient principles, it is talking about a religious construct. Sometimes we think that just because it says ancient principles, it's a biblical framework, but not always.
Yeah,
not always. So just be careful. Be discerning. Like learn how to skim. This book, The Way of the Shepherd, is actually leveraging biblical principles to talk about the management of people. And it uses the analogy of a shepherd and sheep. Now, before we dive into that, Chris, I want to ask you this question, man. Why do you think it's the case where, like in the marketplace, in whatever business world outside of the church, and that's not just the business world, right?
Yeah.
But in the world outside of the church, is this quick to leverage these like biblical principles. And here's the thing about biblical principles: they work even if you don't believe in God. Like the principle works.
Because the rain falls on the.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so hard for sometimes as people who are persons of faith to leverage activate these same principles across their lives the same way that some people do outside of the church, as we begin our conversation on the way of the shepherd, 7 secrets to managing productive people. I just put that up for Cerise. She wanted to see the subtitle.
Okay. I don't know. I think I might approach it from a different perspective.
Okay.
The like visceral response is, well, that's how you're raised, right? Many people born in a very structured religious construct. You're already given all of the principles that you'll ever need to succeed in life and to have a fulfilling relationship with Christ and others, right? So it's like, do you really need anything else outside if everything is, even taught or are being taught the principles from this one, and you are encouraged or just indoctrinated to believe that give me the Bible, that's it, that's all you need. It's one piece of literature, the Holy Writ, Soli Deo, right? So what if it was really almost the reverse? The people who are pulling from these biblical perspectives in their secular, from the secular realm, they don't have the answers. And so what they're doing is they're pulling in these principles that are helping them to thrive in their area of specialty, sector, industry, expertise. And what if it was really those in the particular, those who are religious? What if they aren't? What if they don't have those principles?
Ooh.
They just fail to see that those principles do exist in the very thing that they've been learning and that they've been taught and they've been indoctrinated, whatever word you want to use there. But somehow they struggle to make the switch.
You're asserting that it's possible for me to read my Bible for years, but still miss the actual application of the principles that are espoused in the Bible. How dare you? First of all, how dare you? Because I read every day and I study every week and I have small group discussions and I listen to great sermons. How dare you assert that there be a possibility that I'm missing out on what's there?
Because you're still broke. So if someone were to tell me, how dare me, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah. We mean on that.
Yeah. You're not saying that. You're not saying that.
Right. So I would even assert that if you looked at the Bible through not just a spiritual lens, but a lens of people management or just you would get more than just having a solid salvific experience. You will also have sound principles on how to manage your finances.
Come on, Chris.
Interpersonal communication, hygiene. Yeah, listen, right? Now, here's the question. If I only study these principles alone, within its original context, will I learn everything that's necessary? No. The Bible's not going to teach me how to invest properly in real estate or stocks.
Right.
Just like the businessman knows that there are particular principles, as much as he has his degree and as much as he went maybe to B school or whatever, there are certain things that he knows he will need from other sources. Bring them in and apply them into his area that he's working in. So all of that to say, on one side,
you're getting warm now.
All that to say, on one side, you may have all of the principles and ye need know it.
You need know. Yeah.
On the other side, you may not realize you don't have the principles, and you don't think you need them in order to do what God has called you to do, because the Bible is enough. If that was the case, then he wouldn't have brought in the two master craftsmen, the artisans, to build the tabernacle. Can't remember the names now.
Holiab and Bezalel.
Listen, they were not religious people.
Break that thing down, Chris.
Right?
Come on.
They were masterful masons. Like, what they knew how to do was to put pieces together. Yeah, right. Craftsmen. They weren't preachers.
And he declares, my spirit is on them.
Both. BOF. Yeah, both. And I think that that's what we're missing when we look at the Bible. The Bible should also help us to understand that there are particular principles that you won't find in detail, in prescription in the word.
Yeah.
But God has put spirit on people to give you the understanding of how to attain financial peace, literacy, prosperity, how to manage, as we're looking at this book here, how to lead better, how to guide or pastor better, how to, like, there's, and so, yeah, that was a long answer, but
so I love how Hazel puts it, like we over spiritualize everything instead of applying the principles to our practical everyday life. Like spirituality, good personal spirituality, effective. So I don't even know the modifier to use, but like when you read, God is very practical.
Yes.
Matter of fact,
yes.
Jesus is like, yo, you don't go to war unless you checking your numbers. You don't build a tower unless you checking the numbers.
And then he'll turn around on the other side and say, David, you bet not count.
Don't count.
And that's what we miss. The Bible should give us enough wisdom to know that there are people that God has blessed with the knowledge.
Yep.
The Bible is about the knowledge of God.
Come on.
All right, now. Y'all opened up the camera, but blame Pierre for this. The Bible is about the salvific history of what God is doing. When you look at the book of Revelation and you see the first, second, third, fourth, fifth seals that are being broken and are open, it is not talking about the secular history of the world. No. It's the spiritual history of the church, the historical, history of the church. Practical, real time, not real time, but real, but it's not from how the world secularly is moving. It's how the church and how God is moving in dispensations of the church.
The Bible is not a book of world history.
It's not a book of world history. And yet you got people like E.G. Dub, who uses Josephus and other secular historians to support books like Great Controversy. You don't want to talk about that.
No.
Because we think that she received everything in a vision. No, she used secular material to support the spiritual visions that were given. And that secular material helped to create the context of how it fit into the world we are living in right now. So don't ask God to bless you with money and you don't know how to manage money.
Right. That's why seek ye first the kingdom of God.
Priorities.
And all these things. Well, what's all these things? If I'm seeking the kingdom of God, my connection with God, my relationship with God, and then my responsibility to community, because we talked about kingdom several times on Worship and Word. What else? What are all these things?
Right.
That's going to be added. And what are the guiding principles for all these things?
I bet not over spiritualize all these things. Elliot says many outside of the spiritual framework look to Jesus's leadership as a master leader rather than the lens of spiritual savior. Good. So they look at the principles like one looking at another great leader who lived on earth.
Yeah, there's so many books written about the leadership of Jesus.
I got one right now, Jesus CEO.
Yeah.
Number thing right there.
And they celebrate like Jesus was a great leader. We don't necessarily believe him to be the Messiah, but his principles are sound. His principles are solid.
Yeah.
And we celebrate. We celebrate these principles. For us, I think it's the other side. Yeah. I don't know, Elliot, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like we embrace the biblical narrative. Jesus is our savior. Jesus is our savior. I don't know about like practical every day, but it's both of them.
It's both.
It's both of them.
Yep.
Like, bless me and listen, I'm on both of them.
Both. Bless me with enough to forgive I want to forgive my own. Play games out here. Yeah, I feel you though, Lonnie. Yeah, both. Why not?
Both of them. Both of them. All right, y'all getting real warm. Sharice is like, listen, see, medical professionals. Yeah. You don't want to take medicine.
Oh boy.
Right?
Oh boy.
You want to take medicine.
Oh boy.
Right? But you want to you out here eating devil's cocaine. That's what she said. You eating devil's cocaine. Yo, we ain't on this right now. We not on this right now. We ain't even started talking about the book. But man,
I don't know if we gonna get to the book.
Yeah, we gonna get it. We gonna get it. We eating preservatives, sodium.
Oh man,
straight from the can.
Yo,
listen, bro. I had this thought the other day.
Yeah,
and it I was eating some fast food.
Yeah,
right. And maybe it's just me. You can go ahead and rebuke me if you need to.
And then
I was like, should I even pray over this?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I'm asking God to bless. I'm asking God to bless these greasy French fries. Should I? Like,
I mean, context, right? Because what about the homeless men who
context is key.
That was their only meal for the,
But I mean, French fries, and then I wash it down with the devil's cocaine by drinking a milkshake.
Hey, listen.
Like, should I ask God to and what I'm talking about is the practical nature of
Yeah.
I want to be healthy. Yeah. And I'm praying, God, keep me healthy, keep my body, keep my mind.
Yeah.
But like, I'm trashing it.
Hey, side note. So, pescatarian, vegetarian for a minute.
Yo, I had some salmon today, bro, on the grill. So.
It was yeah. I bet it was. Yeah. Bet it was. Yeah. Okay. Hold that thought. Listen, I was New York City homeless at the time, Bowery Rescue Mission. They were giving out these sandwiches, and so I just grabbed one, waiting for I think they were like an overflow, because I think I came when they weren't serving anything else, so they had these overflow sandwiches. I bite into the sandwich, I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, straight ham.
Listen, just because I hadn't eaten meat in a minute, decades, doesn't mean that you don't know it when you don't taste it, y'all. And I said to myself, listen, I said to myself,
I'm about to eat this.
Hungry. I'm not picking out nothing. Or bless this meal. Thank you. I was grateful for the meal. Now I know it's a little perfunctory, in comparison to what you were just saying, but
yeah,
I was
this is everything, bro.
Now my stomach wasn't.
Oh yeah.
However, it was like, yo, what is going on?
Pretzel praise.
And I ain't gonna lie though, it tasted. It took me back.
Yeah, it tastes good.
I think it was turkey. It took me back. Anywho,
it tasted good. Like
all of that to say, yeah, God definitely did bless, because I didn't have anything, So,
yep. Eat that thing.
Yeah, he said, eat the food available to you until you can eat better.
And I think that's really important, because what do we do? The assumption that we make sometimes with people is like we're all in the same place emotionally, socially, physically, spiritually, financially, and we're not.
Yeah.
And how do we, as kids are going back to school, as we're working in medical environments, as we're working in offices or on distributed teams, or whatever's going on, crisis that we're dealing with in our lives, how do we navigate people? How do we navigate people that are going through different things? So just a quick synopsis of the book, The Way of the Shepherd. It's a story of a young and experienced reporter who meets and interviews the most respected CEO in America and walks away with the lessons of a lifetime, the keys to exceptional leadership. And again, this was a book that I read in seminary, and I think Foundations of Pastoral Ministry or Introduction to Church Administration, something relative to that. This was the book that we read, Way of the Shepherd. And the interesting thing about the book, Chris, is really just to kind of give you the setup.
Yeah.
This young reporter has a conversation with the CEO, the best businessman in the world right now, or at least in America. And he's like, so tell me how you've been successful. And he says, okay, let me tell you the story. I was graduating from business school, and I got a job. And I was so excited that I ran to my mentor and said, hey, I'm super excited about this job, but I'm also worried. And he said, well, what's the worry? He says, the worry is, I'm scared of having to lead people. Super good with the numbers, graduating with my MBA, ready to be here, but I'm worried about how to lead people.
You petty, by the way. I'm sorry. I took a look at your salmon just now. I could try to hold it in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Enjoy that. Turn the audio up when you're watching that video. And his mentor, his business school professor, says, okay, I'll teach you everything that you need to know, but you need to give me your summer. Or no, you need to give me the rest of your semester. Okay. So you got to keep up your class load, but hang out with me for every Sunday in the semester. And they hang out on his sheep farm. His business school professor has sheep. So the businessman is telling the reporter the story of hanging out with his business school professor for the semester on his sheep farm and what he learned about leading people from being on the sheep farm. Like that's the setup. That's the framework for the book. And it has so many different layered meanings, right?
Right.
Like we're pastors reading this book, Way of the Shepherd. And I think many people thought it was going to be like a pastoral book.
Yeah.
But it's a business book. But the principles are taken from their biblical principles.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is, like, this is not a book for pastors. It's a book for anyone who has the responsibility to and for other people. Just plain as day. So what I want to do is just kind of go through really quickly in the time that we have left the 7. I'm just going to read what the 7 chapters are.
Okay.
And kind of just break down the application of that. The meaning, business world, meaning church world, meaning family. What's the meaning or application beyond just what's written in the book? All right. So chapter 1 of Way of the Shepherd, 7 Secrets to Managing Productive People. The title of chapter 1, or the idea of chapter 1, is Know the Condition of Your Flock. Know the condition of your flock. And in reading the book, the business school professor, this soon to be graduating MBA student, they were walking around the flock, and he was really just investigating the sheep. You know, looking in their nose, looking behind their ears, looking at their neck, looking at their feet, their underbelly. And he was just kind of asking this MBA student, you know, why would it be so important to pay attention, to examine, know what's going on with the sheep?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, yeah, so you got to know what's going on with them. And he's like, yeah, exactly. When you start leading a team, you got to know what's going on with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's so hard in the work world, and I know many of us are in the work world in some way or another, or retired, man, a lot of us have encountered a boss or a construct where people were super concerned about the work, but not concerned about the worker.
Wow.
Not concerned about the person.
Yeah.
Now, some people say, Chris, that's not my job. My job is to make sure the work gets done.
Metrics.
Right. But a lot of the literature is saying, and I think a lot of that comes from Industrial Revolution model, a lot of the literature is saying, nah, in order to get the most out of your people,
yeah,
you have to know what condition they're in or what they're going through.
Yeah.
Like you just have to.
Yeah.
What's tough for me, man, I want to take it to the church space.
Okay.
And like doing ministry in church. Like a ministry leader in church. Why do you think it's so easy for us to get caught up in doing the work? Like in the church context, get so caught up in doing the work, but not checking on the people, the volunteers, the people that we're supposed to work with.
So Elliot puts in the in the comments, he writes relationship. Work don't talk back. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that we had a discussion in the after party about the DISC assessment and the profiles. Somebody who is a high D in the workspace, they actually, for the most part, at least their intuitive nature in a team is to leverage the team to get the work done. And so many of our churches are still designed that way, where we have working groups and we see them as, and I hate to use the word, but because
you have to break it down again.
Yeah, we see people
working groups.
Yeah, we see people as I don't want to use the word assets, because assets technically from a definition standpoint is valuable people or resources. But I use that term where we see people more so as the resource, valuable resource to get something done, the means to an end, because when the end is complete, there's no more communication, there's no more connection with that individual. And even right now, some of you that may not be attending your church may have gotten people or calls or probably not emails, but people have reached out to you, but they didn't really reach out to you just to see how you're doing. They want to see how you're doing, to see if you're fit for work again in ministry. That's why they want to see how you're doing. Working groups, if you think of group dynamics, there's 4 phases to how a group gets to the space where they are very fluid. Everybody is almost, in a sense, kind of symbiotic. They're reading each other's minds, and they're just moving. So the first stage of a group is forming, come together, and there are a lot of bobbing heads. Yes, that's good. I agree. Maybe even borderline groupthink. There's not much tension.
Yeah.
Then you get into the next stage, which is storming. Differences of opinion now. You start to say, I don't think that's, I disagree. And with the storming, this is now where your personality, who you are, just talked about myrtle trees in the valley, your personality and who you are starts to come out. You can only cloak your true identity for so long within a group setting where you are spending considerable amount of time with individuals to do something.
Yep.
Here's the difference with a working group. Depending on the kind of group it is, if you don't meet but for only projects, it's actually easy to cloak who you really are until there is a particular project that requires you to spend more time with the other people. So a lot of us have cloaked identities in these working groups because many of the things that we do in ministry are programmatic. We show up, plan the thing, and then do it. Delegate it, boom, and do it. But the bigger the job, the project, the ministry, whatever it is, the more extensive, the more work that's required, we start to peel back the layers and storming begins to happen. I remember being in a ministry group, and everything was good until it required multiple sessions to plan a particular thing. And then identities, personalities, push back and started to, and I'm like, oh, now we finally have arrived. But you haven't arrived yet, because the thing after storming is you got to learn. This is what we're talking about, right? Observing and knowing the condition of the sheep. You're just not looking at the sheep from the outside. I like when you said that you actually have to look and check their teeth and look at their underbelly. Like, that's what actually knowing is, getting intimate with their no pun intended, the ticks, you know, and with their idiosyncrasies, the buttons that should be pushed to galvanize them to do something and shouldn't be pushed because it might, you know, so all of these things, this is where norm, so you got form, storm, and then norm happens, where everybody's kind of in this space of, okay, I understand you. I understand your communication style. I understand your likes and your dislikes. I understand. I think the biggest part of norming is understanding and creating a culture. This is where culture is created. Culture isn't created in the storm. If it is, man, you are in a volatile space. It's not in the form because everybody's, I don't want to say fake, but everybody's saving face. Probably a better way to put it.
Saving face. That's
it's
good.
It's in the norm. After you get through all of this, then it's okay. This is what our culture really is. And then after norm is perform. All right, let's get to work. Let's get the job done. It's easier to now delegate which person can fit for a particular role. Working groups, y'all, is even if you go through all of that, after the performative activity, after the performance is done, after the project is finished, the group is gone.
Adjourn.
Yep. And you don't come back until there is something else to do. Now, some people can argue that that is okay for church and for ministry because it's the work of Christ that binds us together. Y'all, please.
Hazel.
That's a lie from the pit of church leaders usually expect their workers and volunteers to be okay, willing, and ready mentally and emotionally because they have God and are working for God. And this is not always the case. Church people are not always okay. Absolutely. I did give y'all the scenic route of working groups, but working groups are good. Like, listen, the best working groups, they know how to perform.
Yeah.
But they don't have intimacy. The intimacy is in the work, not in the people.
And this is tough because even as parents, right, Cerise, the grind, the day-to-day, getting in the car, the drop-off, the homework, and we can get so caught up in what we're doing that we don't even know what's going on with our kids.
Yeah.
Like, what condition are they in? What are they going through? And in order to have a greater impact, we got to know the condition of the people that we're working with. And we know from jobs, there are many situations where we go from forming to being pushed to perform. Like,
wow, 0 to 100.
Yeah. And when that happens, there's always these delays. Why can't we get this project underway? Why can't we move faster? Why can't? And it's because the know, like, and trust principle.
Yeah.
I don't know none of y'all.
Right. Yeah.
I pretended to like you to get through the interview. But I definitely don't trust you.
Trust.
So
yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Not just understanding, but trust has got to be in the norm space too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can understand somebody still not trust them.
Yeah.
Kelly says it's difficult to know the conditions of your team and lead a team when your time with them is only when you all perform. Yeah.
Another way of saying it, only during the church service.
Weekend warriors. Yeah. Yeah.
The only time we get together is to perform. And I know it's not performance, it's worship. If the only time we get together is to perform this service, then and as soon as this performance is over, we disband into the next time we come together.
Yeah,
that's why it makes meetings so hard. And it's not just the leader; it's how the leader can help to foster a culture of checking in and connecting to people. I want to ask you this before we go to the next one, Chris, which you already worked on a little bit, but what's the realistic expectation from what you've seen, what you've experienced? I know you were taking us down Communication 101, but what's the realistic expectation of knowing the condition of our people when we have a large group? Say we work in a large organization. Say you're the pastor of a church, and that could be varying degrees. Let's say it's 100 member church.
Okay.
Or let's say you are the executive in an organization that employs 50 people. What's the realistic construct as it relates to time and available resources for me to know, my people, my team. Like I got 100 members. Is it what's realistic and feasible? Or my leadership team has 50 people on it.
Yeah.
What's realistic?
Yeah.
To really understand their condition.
The amount of people first does determine how long it takes. That's first. So because I have in the consulting space, never really had a project yet that was on a corporate level of more than like a sizable, mid-sized, large enterprise business. And so a lot of it has been like either solopreneurs, micro businesses. So it's easy, right, to kind of get to know that individual. Yeah. So man, I can only give you an estimation. That's the only thing that I can do. I know you probably have a better handle on it, just because of your experience of being a pastor, and now in the space of leadership development that you killing, by the way. I would say that if it takes 15 to 20 years just to change the culture and direction of an organization, y'all, right? It takes almost 2 decades just to change that. I would almost say that 15 out of those 20 years is sharpening the axe. And the sharpening of the axe is actually knowing who you're trying to galvanize and to mobilize in a different direction. I really believe it. People won't change until they trust you. I'm glad you brought up that. And in order for them to trust you, they need to know who you are, and vice versa. You need to know who they are. So, so in the construct of, let's say, if it was a church, for a leader to really get to know every single person in the church is probably impossible. But there's management, i.e. elders, whom they should know. And then those should know the ones that they are the overseers of. And the more complicated your structure in your church, the longer it's going to take to know your people. I'll give you a quick example. We did a couple of years ago, like a roll call for a church, and I was actually okay being the fall guy with reading names of people who you show up every Saturday who knows your name, but you don't know theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Or you know their name, but because you're so used to the moniker sister last name, brother last name.
Yeah.
You look at the first name, it's like, who this? I don't, because I've never had to even articulate your first name before. Who on earth is this person? Oh, you better believe I caught the heat, and I was okay with that.
Oh yeah, you caught.
I was like, I was like, give it to me. I don't want those of you who are more. I'll take it. And so that being said, man, the fact that it was years, that these individuals, in a sense, kind of said they knew me.
You know them.
I didn't even know their names, right?
Yep.
So, bruh.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put on my little monocle, my top hat, and my coat, and say, the discovery of this answer is beyond the scope of, I don't know, bro. I don't know, but what I will say is it's going to take more than just a year.
Yeah.
For an organization, more than just 1 year to actually get to really know who you're supposed to be leading.
Yep.
Got to be.
So Carmela says the leader that does not know the condition of the team will end up doing all the work when the team is not functioning properly and will eventually get burned out. One of the things that I look at as it relates to this man is Jesus, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great construct.
He had the 3.
Yeah.
The inner circle.
Yeah.
That got a side and experience with him. Then he had the 12. Right?
Yep.
At one time there's 70. At one time there's 120. Not to mention the relationship with Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, and other people. But as it relates to just leadership structure, Jesus is not having the conversation with everybody at every level. The same conversation. I think one of the things that we have done even in the church space is we've totally overlooked the principles that we see. We talked about principles before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the expectation, the unrealistic expectation that the senior leader of your church, your pastor, will have an intimate relationship with everyone.
Especially when the cycle for them even coming in, pastoring and leaving
3,
is
4, 5
typically,
years.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have great interpersonal dynamics with the teams. Like you said,
Yeah.
For a pastor, you can't know everyone.
Yeah.
But you should be fairly close and know, in our construct, your elders.
Yeah.
You should be fairly close and know them.
Yeah.
Know their condition.
Mm-hmm.
That also takes time, right?
It does.
Saying you're going to pull that off in 2 to 3 years is tough.
Really
There's
ambitious.
things you could do to accelerate it, and it's those relationships that filter out. Because honestly, you can really only pastor about 20 people.
Really?
You can only you don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
You don't have the capacity.
So the people that we know, people like this, where everybody comes up to them like, "Hey, how's your so and so doing?" Like this, it seems as if these pastors, I don't know if it's just not just a gift, but it is supernatural. It's like they know everything about what's going on with everybody who shows up, or clamors for their attention. And I know you about to tell me,
oh yeah,
they learn in grad school, they skimming.
So you know how to read rooms and read the communication channels in your church is one. 2, if they're that good, they're struggling somewhere else.
I want to say that
there is a deficit.
There's a trade-off.
In another area. Yeah, there's always a trade-off.
Yeah,
always trade-off. And that's why
let's be real. Let's be real.
Leaders who are close to you will give you the information. Like they'll say, "Hey, pastor, this happened. That happened. Check on this person. Call this person. Text this person." That's what they're there for. That's why that relationship needs to be close. But the expectation
that's good
that is going to be that for 100 people is unrealistic.
Yeah, and let's be real. Like if that is the case, most times the ones that suffer the most are the ones that you come home to.
Harvard Business Review speaks about the importance of having small teams. In the SDA context, our structure enables a leadership team of more than 40, no matter the size of the place.
Have mercy.
It's too big.
Yeah.
It's too big.
Yeah.
And even when you have leadership teams that are large in many organizations, you have a leadership team, and then you have a senior leadership team that is smaller.
Yeah.
And that from that relationship is distributed out where we can't make decisions with 60 people in the room all the time.
How is it that even in, and I could be wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but like on the conference level where you have the officials that are now, administrating for these local churches, they have that construct, but the local church doesn't. Now, I don't know which conferences does, because let's be real, the way that I seen some of these websites set up,
that is beyond the scope of this paper. Beyond the scope of this paper.
Yeah.
You talked about number 2, and that's why I want to bring it up really, really quickly. Yeah. And as the comments are getting warmer with this, because people see where we're going, and discover the shape of your sheep. So not just condition, but shape. And shape is an acronym: strengths, heart, attitude, personality, and experiences.
That's good.
What are their strengths? What is their heart? What are their attitudes and personality and experiences? And so it's not just, their condition, but what are and they really go together, right? They really go together. And this is what makes it tough, because when we're ready to make decisions, if I don't know shape, then how can I position you?
So it's condition. Because you remember the example, and I don't want to, parse too much here, but examining the sheep for, dental, underbelly, like, there's the wool and all. And then now on the other side, we are looking at their shape. How do we delineate between condition, knowing the condition, and what was number 2 again, by the way? Bring that up, because number 1 is definitely knowing. Number 2, and maybe that's it's also okay. Yeah. So number 1 is knowing. Okay, discover. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't want to like use semantics here, but
of course. I think when we look
how do we delineate?
2 is directly positioned in the framework of strength, right? And I know S is strength, but what are they good at? What are they passionate about? What is their leaning as it relates to attitude? What's their personality? What's their experiences? That's all a leverage point of positioning for strength. I think when it talks about knowing the condition, I think that's like comprehensively where they are, what's going on with them. What's the current context of where the cross section of life is for them? Because I think when we look at number 2, shape, and we referenced this before, I think Hazel referenced it before. I can know what your strengths, heart, attitude, personality, and experiences are and position you and still ignore the fact that you might not be okay.
Okay. Yeah, when I'm looking at number 1 and number 2 as well, he uses flock for number 1 and then sheep, if my memory serves me correctly. Number 2.
I think that's good. So we're going from group to individual.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it really does have that feel where even though I will almost individually inspect the flock to get a holistic.
That's good, Chris.
Right? Assessment of just, okay, what is the entire team?
That's good.
Based on because you can't really do that by just looking. You can't do that standing outside of the pen and just looking at them.
Right.
There's some things that you might be able to know, but there's not that much. But then it's like now when you're talking about the actual backronym of shape, that I think is now, okay, now that I understand the entire the scope who I'm dealing with, now let's go into the individual temperaments, desires. What's your backstory? Like what? Yeah, I think that might be helpful. Elliot says, is it in a sense of discovering what has developed that condition? Oh, that is a great, what has developed that condition.
I mean, Elliot Brooks.
Right.
Congratulations, sir, on your recent graduation with Pastor Elliot Brooks. With your master's in management and leadership, I believe. Let me know in the comments. You the resident expert. Let me know, man. We can slide you the link. You can come on board and help us finish up
in the room.
This conversation. Delia says, I have a small business with about 50 employees. I rely heavily on my managers to have an effective relationship with the employees on their team, because although I know each employee by name, I don't really know them in that sense.
Right.
Small groups are so much more effective for productivity and growth. So also for church growth. So absolutely. Yeah, just the motto. She great relationship with her managers.
Yeah.
Her managers lead as she leads, coaches, mentors, supports her managers. Her managers lead, mentor, coach, support the rest of the team.
So if your elders know your congregation, but you don't know your elders, do you know your church?
No.
And if you have a stronger connection to people outside of your board of elders, but your elders are the ones who are in charge, then who is really your board?
Okay, see, you try to do things that are beyond the scope of this paper.
This is true. I'm sorry. I keep doing this. I keep
beyond the scope of this paper. Let me tell you why before we and let me take a couple of these. So Suri says, discover. I translate, you're seeking out to know them well enough to know how to position them for success. Absolutely. Because as a leader, that's my job. Understand, when you look at what Jesus was doing in taking different temperaments, different personalities, it was all about positioning.
Yeah.
Because he knew once he left, where they needed to be.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need a Peter, right? I'm gonna need a Peter who a little crazy. I'm gonna need that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna need a John. I'm gonna need a Matthew, who, you know, is seen as a traitor to his people, but has a great sense of Jewish history and culture. So, like, let's position them where they need to be.
That's good.
Lana says, where you position each sheep within a flock can both support the sheep in the flock, but okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
But the wrong position can destroy them both and neither succeed. So let me tell you why, Chris, going back to your do you know? Because of this, depending on the size of the organization, depending on your tenure, though, people have relationships with those senior directors, those senior managers, those elders. They have relationships with them that they don't have with you. They tell them stuff that they don't tell you. The elders tell the members stuff that they don't tell you. So it's the relationship with, and in one hand they can be gatekeepers, on the other hand they can be advocates. And if you're not building on that relationship, in a sense, there's a lack of information transfer. There's just some stuff you just don't. Not only do you not know it, you're gonna be out on a wire. And sometimes people say they haven't communicated anything to you. They'll say, "Oh, didn't you know I was X, Y, and Z?" Well, you didn't call, you didn't text, you didn't email, you didn't send a carrier pigeon or smoke signal. How was I supposed to know?
Right.
What the person is not even knowing they're doing it. They're asking you, have you been leveraging your relationship with the people who do know?
Okay.
He is, Lana.
Don't be instigating.
I read this whole book.
Don't be instigating, Lana. Listen.
I read this whole book.
We just out here curries.
I ain't read the other books, but I read this one because, you know, I was always interested in this stuff. All right.
From day 1.
Number 3, help your sheep identify with you. Woo. Woo. This is all about modeling.
Yeah. P, if I turn my camera off, will it make you big? I mean, I could just leave right now, you know.
You
could get up and go, but
no,
you know.
I don't know if I did the thing yet. So I mean, go. I'm gonna talk for a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So yeah, I should have sent this to Elliot to join in with us. So yeah. So as we're waiting for Chris to come back, number 3, help your sheep identify with you. This is all about standards of performance. So, and I would love to ask Delia, if you're still with us, what are some of the things that you model for your managers, that you model for your staff, so that when they see you, you become a reference point? Like they know a standard, they know a communication style, they know how to tackle a problem or an issue because of how you interact with them. Because that's really the case. That's really the case, right? For the longest time, and I know some of us have grown up in families like this to say, do as I say, not as I do. But we always do as people do. We do as the example is set before us. Cerise says, I need to gift this book to my supervisor. Absolutely. It's a great book to give. Give it to a couple of people too. So, you know, maybe they don't take it the wrong way. Elliot says, man, this is the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. So, and you got to ask, and I know we're talking about church and we're talking about management. Cerise brought us back earlier. We were talking about families. What is the example in your family? What's the communication example? What's the example of, okay, when you have a hard day and how you respond to that hard day that your family sees? When you're in a difficult moment, when stuff just is not going well, what's the example that you're setting for your family, for the people who are closest to you? because that's what they're gonna ride out on. And if people can't identify with you, like this is y'all, if people can't identify and resonate with you, why do you think we spend, and we're not trying to get deplatformed, but why do you think political candidates spend so much money on ads to make them seem relatable? So there's the ad of them in their high school gymnasium. There's the ad of them outside of their first job. There's the commercial of them shaking hands with, shaking hands with, a blue collar worker. Because they know if we don't identify with the leader, the person not going to get our vote. So what are the actions that we are taking so that people will identify with us? Our standards, our communication style, our follow-up, those are the things that develop loyalty and trust. So there's a book, I believe it's Stephen Covey, and it's Speed of Trust. And it really just talks about how you can only lead your team, your organization, your family, as far as they trust you.
And the fastest way to gain trust in a business context is by sharing stories.
Yep.
What was number 3?
Number 3 was, and we got a question. I don't even know what slide that was. Here it is.
Okay.
Help your sheep identify with you.
Yeah. So NP, you already probably touched on it. The way that you help your team to identify you. If y'all want to enter my world, this is a great book here, Leader's Guide to Storytelling.
Yeah.
It's one of my blueprints, I'm going to find, because he has a great framework. There are 8 narrative patterns that you should use in the leadership realm. And the one that helps with those who you're trying to help to resonate with who you are is communicating who you are. So you will need a story that provides audience engaging drama and reveals some strength or vulnerability from your past. I'm trying to get practical with y'all now.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to help them to identify you, bring up something that either shows how strong or how vulnerable.
Yep.
You are. Then in telling it, you will need to provide meaningful details, but also make sure that your team has the time and inclination to hear your story.
Yeah.
Don't send no email with you like, and if you do, you need to know the proper channel in order to disseminate that. Because it may not be practical to do some big round robin and get everybody just for you to share. And in other cases, it very well might be. So time and the inclination, like there has to be the incentive to want to lean in to actually hear. And here is where, when you are doing it correctly, the story will inspire such phrases as, I didn't know that about him.
Yep.
Now I see that's what she's driving at. Yeah. So that is one way. There are many ways, but that's a super helpful one, is share a story about yourself to help people to identify with you. Don't talk about what you know. People, they don't care about that. They don't care about what you know. Oh wow, Elliot, we going there?
Yeah, I mean, he fresh off graduation, so he
ready. Yeah, Pastor Brooks, we going there. Can a leader adequately lead 3 different organizations?
Ooh, okay, give us some context, man, and we'll give you time. We can come back to this, but give us some context.
Are they 3 big organizations?
Yeah. Are you talking about like family, leading your family, leading at church, leading at work, like? Yeah. when you mean 3 different organizations, because we have people, CEO of this, board chair of that,
and we know people who.
Okay, Elliot Brooks. Nope, I'm coming back because I asked Delia this question, and she responded to it. So let's take this. Okay. I asked Delia in terms of having her sheep identify with her. What does she model for them?
Okay.
To set a standard or or just a point of reference for them. She says, at work, I teach my managers, whatever you present to employees or me, research it thoroughly and be prepared to answer my questions. I use that approach for work and church. Be on time and be prepared. People hate or admire leaders. Yeah, well, you don't know. you gotta. Sometimes you just gotta be like, that is beyond. What do you think? That's beyond the scope of my paper.
Beyond the scope.
Or do your research.
Yeah.
Do your and that's the thing about leadership, the management of people. Be prepared to answer my questions, because some people just gonna ask questions because they're question askers. Like their brain is processing and they want to see that you're thinking and you're not just trying to get something over on me.
Yeah.
And one of the things about working with people is being okay with the pushback that comes in the form of questions. That's a cultivated skill, and it's a skill that Delia is teaching her people. You're trying to get me in trouble, Elliot.
He didn't even take. You didn't even need the time to. He said, "No, I know exactly what I'm talking."
He ain't give time. Can a leader adequately lead 3 different organizations?
No. Can a leader adequately lead 3 different pastoral districts?
I was gonna bring it back up. All right. So as a Cerise says, nah. All right. Cerise says, nah. And we're just gonna go on to the no. I had a professor. I was eating lunch with a professor from Oakwood University several years ago. And we were just kind of talking. And he said, yeah, having multiple churches is like having multiple girlfriends. Somebody's going to be unhappy all the time. Or in the words of Cerise, nah. So, all right.
And we use that analogy in the most respectful way. Listen, in this cancel culture movement, bro.
Yeah.
You can only pass to 20 people. That's real. So that means
you can only pass to 20 people. Yeah.
Right. So,
and honestly, the majority of that 20 needs to be your leaders. They need to be the leaders.
Each church would need to have like 6.666666667 individuals each.
You had too many sixes on there. I was waiting for you to get a different number. All right.
3 don't go into 20 even.
Right.
But number 4.
Number 4, yeah. I think we're almost at the end of this. Number 4 is make your pasture a safe place. Make your pasture a safe place. One of the interesting things about this, man, is that information transfer piece that we were talking about. Like people need to be kept in the loop and figuring out, navigating, what does that look like? How do we keep our people informed?
Yeah.
How do we? There's a great thing about when you look at manufacturing leadership. And it talks about how leaders of manufacturing organizations need every so often to show up on the floor. You need to show up on the floor so that people see you. From a church context, in many cases, your church realizes that you have different responsibilities. So you can't be at everything, right? But there are times where you show up on the floor. You show up to pack lunches. You show up to help with the equipment, to load the truck, to fold the chairs. Yeah. It is what is called the ministry of presence. I'm here so that you can see that I'm here, and not just performative. I'm here. I'm actually here, and I'm helping. And it's the same in corporate structures. What does it look like to show up on the floor? What does it look like to join the brainstorming session, to be a part of the rollout, to respond in the email chain? Because when people see you, and the worst time for you to be invisible is when there's a crisis. That is the worst time. That is the worst time for you to be invisible when there's a crisis.
Yeah.
People need to see you more. There was a leader, a recently publicly disgraced leader, so I will not say his name.
Dang, but you said his gender.
Dang, you got me. Man, I need to work on these pronouns. In the height of the COVID crisis, he was on every day. He was on multiple times a day. And he was engendering a positive national affinity because he was communicating multiple times a day. And here was the thing. He was saying the same thing 3 times a day. He gives remarks in the morning, same remarks he would give in the afternoon, same remarks that he would give in the evening. But the visibility made people trust him even more because we're in the middle of a crisis. So if there's a crisis, people need to see you and hear you, especially in the crisis. At bare minimum, your key leaders need to hear from you at bare minimum. So your key leaders can say, hey, have you talked to the boss about this? Have you talked to the executive about this? Your key leaders need to be able to say, yeah, I talked to him. Yeah, I talked to her. Yeah, I talked to them. That's your first line of defense.
Yeah.
Second line of defense is for people to see you. Why you think when there's a crisis, you have political leaders that fly to the sites and hand out care packages? It is the leadership presence. We feel better because you are here with us in the middle of this crisis. So y'all see, y'all, that's why we know we need to end, because y'all getting rambunctious out here. Woo!
Let's be clear that the leaders of some churches, organizations are not in leadership roles. Some leaders are masking as sheep intentionally for the photo op, for modeling's sake.
Yeah, performative. Yeah, a safe place.
Yeah.
Don't just stay with an abusive partner because you've seen him act ungodly. You just need to pray harder. You've never seen him act ungodly.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
Organizational abuse.
It's a real thing.
And it's tough, man, because like in I work with organizations before, coming on in the middle of a crisis, they're trying to figure out what to do with a team member that is creating a toxic environment in the corporate context. Like you just can't fire a person.
Yeah.
Because they're creating a toxic atmosphere, an unsafe play. You just can't. You have to document. It's a lot.
Well, it's the lawsuit will come.
Yeah. I think we take that approach in the church context sometimes, and we shouldn't. Like we should just you should be removed, bro. Like you're creating a toxic atmosphere. We gonna call a meeting and you gotta go.
And sometimes you don't even need to call a meeting. Sometimes we find that with Paul.
Sometimes we need to take executive action.
Paul said, "I heard,
bro, you was wilding. You gotta go.
Ain't no vote.
You gotta go." Because you're creating an unsafe atmosphere.
Yeah.
An abusive situation.
Yeah.
A power dynamic where you as ministry leaders say, well, I can just do what I want to because da 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 da. And no, that's messy. That's messy. Now, information should be given to all team members rather than those who are just the flavor of the month. Yep. When some team members don't know what's going on, there will be problems.
Yeah, there has to be a way, because we don't have it, especially within the church context, to separate what needs to be voted on, what warrants a meeting and what doesn't. What is an executive decision versus what is a democratic decision?
Right.
I'll give you 2 examples. We kind of talked about it or touched on it probably a couple of weeks ago, but why do we have a democratic process for voting somebody in after or just before they're baptized? what if we find out,
oh boy,
right, that they were from some other space, some other place, some other church, or maybe it's not even from another church. There's just some history, and somebody, makes known.
yeah,
And so, and the way they make known is, all in favor.
mm-hmm.
And there are more nays than yays. And then you have to sit down and now ask the question, well, why are there so many nays? And now whoever this individual is, where he or she might have done stuff in their past that is no longer relevant, is now dredged back up to determine whether or not they are truly saved. Oh, let's reverse it. What if the true consensus should be to disfellowship an individual, but there are more no's than yeses, so they get to stay?
Wow.
So we create these constructs within an organization that, quite frankly, let's be real, we're trying to be more democratic than theocratic in how we are ruled and governed by who should be Christ. We are governed more so by HR and risk management. And because of that, we now have all of these subcommittees and all of these meetings. We're playing around with this thing.
You'd be surprised how many times people be suing the local. Woo. Right. I'm just gonna take comments. I'm gonna let y'all comments be my comments. Does that mean that he or she has to be in every meeting, or that he or she should learn creative ways to lead during a pandemic or crisis? All right. So
that's a good question.
I hang out nowadays with a lot of executives, right?
Yeah.
They can't be in every meeting.
At the time.
They don't have the time. So, they'll have a representative go to a meeting for them and take notes, give them the salient points. But they know, the thing about these executives that I've been working with is they know which meetings to be in, though. They ain't going to be at every meeting, but they know which meetings to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
And then, leading during a pandemic or crisis, there was a guy I was interviewing. His name is Joseph Michelli, and he was interviewing. Joseph Michelli interviewed the CEO of Home Depot, the CEO of Starbucks, the CEO of like all of these companies, and it's like, hey, what have you done during the pandemic? What have you done during the crisis? And the leaders were just sharing stories about how they had to be creative, how they had to think differently, how in some ways the pandemic or crisis gave them a greater ability to connect with their people, because they could have, larger groups of people on a Zoom call sharing information.
Yeah.
That's the mark of effective leadership in an organization and taking care of your people. You're going to have to be creative, crisis or not. And the truth is, there's always going to be a crisis. It might not be a pandemic, but there's always going to be a crisis in which you say, man, we've done it like this for so long. In order for us to be effective at this stage in the game, we're going to switch it up. Now, Chris, I know this is your jam. Creativity doesn't necessarily mean that I need to be the creative one.
That's right. That's right.
I can just pull the brain trust into the room. That is the creative spark that I can leverage.
And if the space is not safe, you ain't getting none.
If the space is not safe, no.
Nobody.
If you have not made it a safe place,
yes,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah. There have been people, and we talked about this before, went to the Creative Problem Solving Institute conference. Did not know that there were people who got paid tens of thousands to walk into a corporate setting to help people to brainstorm, to scribble, and to play with Legos. You have fun for an hour, and then you leave with 20 grand in your pocket. And I'm just like, how? And it was explained the reason why is because they don't feel safe enough to share out of the box ideas. They think it might be too stupid for the group. So most times, so there's a psychological, or not a psychological, there's a neurological reason why when we get older, I don't know if it's called the brain plasticity, but neuroplasticity. There's so much more when we're younger. So the imagination and everything is just wilder, and just, more divergent thinking happens when we're younger. When we get older, more set in our ways. So that's on that side. That's neurologically. But from a social standpoint, When you're in a space, especially in a corporate setting, you want to make sure that your answer like is the answer.
Yeah.
You want to impress the person, you know, who your manager, whoever's in the room, the CEO, the vice president, you want to impress them. So you got to make sure. And by doing that, you're creating safe answers in an unsafe space. And so these people come in to help to break that up and to say, listen, we need to create as many ideas. So that's called divergent thinking as possible. It doesn't matter if it's connected or not, get everybody involved. And then we start to converge on what's more realistic, what's more time sensitive and all of that. And blew my mind to understand that that's why most corporate spaces, you know, unless they're, you know, like even if they're startups, but, you know, let's say like a Google or something like that, they don't foster that kind of psychological safety for you to think outside the box. Businesses like Google say, take a day off to think of something new and different.
You said corporations, you said board meeting. Oh, okay. Lana said, Chris, you going seminary 201. You know, don't be jumping out there.
Lana, you getting out of hand.
Your record. But this is the reason. It's the reason why, right?
Yeah.
The reason why you pay them is because from that creative problem solving, from that divergent thinking, from that creating a safe place or different ideas, something can happen in that room that becomes $1 million idea.
Right.
So the small honorarium you paid, and if it's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, in comparison to the $1 million idea,
right?
Like you got a discount.
Yeah.
And often you need a person from the outside to engender that where we are. So yeah, here we go. 5. The staff of direction. Where are we going, y'all? Like, people need to know where we're going.
Vision.
And it's not just you like, yo, we going that way. It's like you see the person out front, and you got to think, right? He's this graduate student, or this successful executive is telling the story to this reporter about when he was a graduate student. He's hanging out with sheep of his graduate professor, and his professor is like, yeah, like you have to actually get out front and direct them to where we're going.
Yeah.
And I know this is Pastor Brooks is, he's big on this, man. He's big on this. Yeah. How do we create the vision of what's happening, the vision of direction that we're going?
And staff in this sense is not people.
No,
it's
the shepherd analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way that you establish direction, well, technically it's not about the direction, it's the staff of it.
This is good.
So there's that.
Right? Frame that for us.
But to understand what the staff of it is, it's vision. And when you think about where are we going, it can't be project based. It can't be based on a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters of. It's got to be based on where do you see? Where do you see the organization going in the next 3 to 5, 10, maybe even 15?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a lot of your vision, and this is where we go into the whole vision and mission, construct, but should not just be about where you want to be in 3 to 5, 10 to 15, but what do you want to become?
Mm-hmm.
2 different things. One is the destination, but what is going to be the culture?
Yep.
What are going to be the core values that are going to sustain the direction for the next decade? Like that is what we're talking about when it comes to direction. It's both.
Jesus did that so masterfully.
Come on, talk about it.
Jesus was continuing to cast vision. Like this is what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you short term what this is going to look like. Short term, I'm bringing all y'all knuckleheads together, and I'm going to train y'all, and I'm going to equip y'all and prepare y'all to connect with different types of people. Long term, north, south, east, and west. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the world.
And beyond, yeah.
So they have this picture. Jesus is continuing to show them this is where we're going with this.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back to shape and condition, because as I give you the picture of where we're going, so in a corporate context, as I give you the picture of where we're going, in a church context, in a family context, as I give you the picture of where we're going, then you know what the guardrails are. But you got some freedom.
Yeah.
Now, I can't let you run too far ahead, because if you run too far ahead, I can't cover you.
Yeah, you won't be able to hear me.
And if you're too far behind, I really can't lead you, because you're too far behind.
Right.
So it is this relationship where I'm checking and making sure I'm not micromanaging.
Right.
But hey, I'm reminding you, these are the guardrails. This is the direction where we're going. Now, with your gifts, skills, talents, abilities, attitude, personality, experience, go.
Yeah.
And you have the freedom to go, because I've given you the construct of the vision. But if I don't know you, we not safe. You don't know where we going. It's just a hot mess. And we find ourselves in every meeting asking the same question.
And that should be that should be enough to when people start asking the same questions, then you should start to ask yourself, maybe it's me as the leader that's not clear.
Yep.
Especially if it's not just one person, two people, 10.
Of course, correct.
Yeah, because sometimes it may be clear. And let's get it. Jack Welch talks about the 70, 20, 10 rule, right? Is it 70? No, the 10, 70, and 10. The 20, 70, and 10. So you got the A players, the B players, and the C players. One thing that I learned in church ministry is you do have A, B, and C players. But I would frame them in this way. Not that your A players are the ones that are going to lead the helm, and so you train them to help the 70, and then you really try to see whether or not you should keep the 10, right? But I've discovered that in my brief stint of leadership, there are 4 types of people. There's the person who sees the vision and they are mobilized for it.
Oh man, I gotta write this down. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're like, I see it and I'm down for it. Those are like the A+. Then you have your individuals who see it, but they're not really on board just yet. They know exactly what you're trying to do, but they're kind of on the fence. They're uncertain, maybe because of the capability that they may have. They may not fully trust you yet, maybe because you're the new person on the block. And so, man, we used to do stuff this way, and I see where you're trying to take us, but I don't really know. They're the individuals, though, who aren't rebellious. If you pour into them enough, they will see it and want to. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Then you got the people on the other side who don't see it, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
These are the ones who are still pliable, but they're still blind. So not only do you need to work on showing them what the vision is, but then you have to work on getting them excited about it, invigorating them about it. Then you got the folks that don't know, don't care. They don't want to see it. They don't care to see it. And what I've learned is that the don't know, don't care are the minority, but they find a supernatural way to seem as if it's the majority.
They got megaphones, stilts, and Wizard of Oz machinery.
You would have sworn that you did something wrong in your tenure as a leader if you were not focusing on the ones who see. And let me tell you something: if you don't pour into the ones who see and are ready, they will get discouraged.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll check out.
Absolutely.
If you don't continue to nurture them, and it will definitely discourage the ones that don't see and don't really know but want to know, because then you got these individuals who don't know, don't care, who will influence them to come over to the side of it ain't that deep, y'all. So for me, it's not 3, it was really 4. And it's not because I created some framework. No, I was knowing the condition. You know how long it took me to know the P, you know how long it took me to know the condition?
How long?
A year in.
See?
You know how many people are on my team? 10. It wasn't even 50, y'all.
Yeah, see? Yep.
10 leaders. And it took me 9 months to a year to get to know where everybody really was, where they stood.
You know, framing this out, man, just kind of thinking through this, and I know there are the prophecy related to this, right?
Yeah.
But also what is the additional framework for why Jesus took 3.5 years? I know the prophecy says, you know, cut off in the middle of the week, half of 7 is 3.5. Right. Yeah. I got you on that. But what if part of that was also, man, these people need time.
It's time.
They need time with me. I need time with them. Yeah. We got to work through some things. Mm-hmm. So when I release them, they're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But when I release them, they're in a much better position to carry on the mission and to continue to speak forward the vision of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a year. It wasn't 2 years.
Right. In year 2, my tenure was up.
Oh, man, we got a couple more. We almost $2 in. What are the indicators that you are a good leader? You, Hazel, would ask this question.
We need that. Well, like, Hazel, you need to know the condition of your flock.
Yeah, right. Here we go.
You need to discover
the condition.
Mm-hmm. Discover the shape of your sheep. Help your sheep identify with you. Make your pasture a safe place. And you need to leverage the staff of direction. Now, we didn't really talk about the staff of direction, P.
Yeah.
So now that you have the vision in place, how do you mobilize? Because that's what the staff is, right? You're galvanizing your team to actually now get into, you know how you do that? You repeat the vision over and over until you get sick of it.
Till people start finishing your sentences.
That's like the first thing, y'all. Like, we're going to talk about techniques and how the first thing is you need to have the megaphone.
Yeah.
And you have to get excited about the very direction in which you are trying to bring your team along.
Yeah.
Yep. Repeat and model. You got to walk the walk. But you got to keep talking about it over and over and over and over. These companies that are successful, if you were to ask any of the people on the team, like for Amazon, what are the 14 leadership tenets that they have? Because they have 14. I would say, maybe not, I could be wrong, but the ones who are like their A players, they know what it is. And if they may not know every single one, they definitely embody it. So that's the first one.
You know, distilling it down to a few key principles. Number one, if I'm a good leader, work is getting done. If I'm a good leader, work
is getting done. Yeah.
Like there's KPI, right?
Right. It's measurable.
Work is getting done. People are getting developed. Because some of us are doing a very good job.
Alliteration there.
Work done.
Mm-hmm.
But, like Cerise said, if you're not hated and people are happy to work with you or for you, that's an indication of a good leader. A lot of that comes from that development, that interest.
Yeah.
So let me just tell you a little bit about a client I was working with when I was in Oregon, and they had a senior leader leave. And we did this whole process of like, let's process this grief.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, they were just talking about she was dependable. She was encouraging. She checked in on you.
Mm-hmm.
She made sure that you were clear, that you got the communication that you needed. She coached you. She mentored you. She supported you in your difficult moments. Like, so her work was getting done. Her people were getting developed. But also, there's that legacy now, that legacy example of, yeah, I want to do that too. John Maxwell calls it the level 5 leader.
Okay.
When you look at the ministry of Jesus,
yeah,
and there's like 7 things that I talk about the ministry of Jesus, but one of the idea of, I know I've been effective. I know, and good is subjective.
It is.
It's very subjective, but work needs to get done. People need to be developed, and then there needs to be something that is left behind. Something is left behind, a model, a framework, an example.
Yeah.
Man, when they were here, and we're not going to stay in this point in 2021, but when Chris was here, man, he did this, and this for us. That's not a stoppage in time.
Right.
It is a reminder. We need to continue to do great work because we had a model of what doing great work looks like.
Right.
And so things shouldn't die when your tenure is up. Now, there's all types of political, social, economic constructs that can derail that. But someone should still continue to be inspired to move forward when your tenure is over.
Yeah.
So work gets done, people are developed, and legacy is left behind. There's like 77 steps beneath all of those.
Yeah, there are.
But when you think about the great leaders that you've experienced in your life, not just you've read about, but you've experienced, why'd you call them great? They were good at what they did. The work got done. You got developed. You got coached. You got helped through a difficult point. You got acknowledged. You got promoted. Something happened in that exchange. And they left you with advice, principles, frameworks, a picture of the vision that you continue to execute after they left the organization or after you left. I can talk about this stuff all day.
So this is what Oregon got when
I can do this all day, right?
Y'all, he's in his bag today, y'all. Listen here.
I'm here all week.
Listen here.
I'm here all week. All right, we got 2 more. Route of correction. Number 6, man, route of correction. Woo! Ooh, this is tough for some leaders. This is tough. You got to fight for your people. You got to check them too. Like in love. And it's easier to fight for and check, correct, reposition people that you know their condition, you know their shape, you modeled what doing this well looks like, and they trust you. You come in
with the iron fist trying to Who is you?
Ain't gonna happen. And it's hard. It's hard because nobody wants to know. This like thing is very, very huge depending on your personality, right? But leaders want, even the leaders who are like high D personalities that don't care about people's feelings, right? Everybody wants to be liked.
Period.
In the secret closet of the end of the day, what did we do today? Everybody wants to be liked on some level.
That's right.
And part of that, delivering bad news or corrective instruction, fights against, man. If I'm like, yeah, you should really do this. That fights with the other side of it, though. If you don't correct, if you not flex, like Elliot says,
you don't bend that branch,
and don't and you can't be doing a correct and switching everything up after being there 5 minutes. Have several seats, but after relationships are built in trust, and people will just, as they trust you, they'll give you a little bit more. They'll give you a little bit more bandwidth. But you got to, if you don't check some stuff, the great things that you've accomplished up to that point will be derailed.
Yeah.
Happens every single time.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes,
like
Dr. Holly, sometimes you got to be firm. Like sometimes with my kids, it's hey, can y'all do that for me? Hey, I asked you to do this. Hey, can you take care of that? Sometimes it's not that voice that I'm using. But because of the relationship I have with my kids, they know I'm coming from a place of dad's not trying to be an oppressive, abusive person. He's serious about this getting done. And I've seen him in so many moments outside of this. I might not even, I don't like this right now. I don't like being corrected or instructed, but I see him. I see him, the big picture, and I understand why he's doing this at this time. Sometimes, listen.
That's a good point. Because the staff was established before the rod.
Yeah. Man, that's good, Chris.
And it's on the same stick, y'all. It's on the same stick. So don't think you don't have the ability to do it. You got to get no. If you have no direction, you have no correction.
I pulled up the cover, Chris, because on the old cover of the book is the shepherd staff.
Okay.
I was trying to pull it out
just to see if it was there. Yeah. If you have no staff, because here's the thing, right? What you correcting?
Yeah.
If you can't get them excited about the direction that they're going in, then the correction won't even be effective. You can correct, but are they going to take? Right.
Yep.
So that's how come the importance. And I'm glad they put that in the beginning. Like, create the vision, create the sense, not even the sense, but the reality of where we're going first. I see you going down that path as well. So if I, as a follower, as a team member, someone in the organization, if I deviate, you coming and correcting me allows me, and probably the best way to correct is to remind them why I'm correcting you. Why, if we continue going down this path, how it sabotages the direction that we're trying to go. So in a sense, the correction should, maybe not immediately, but just like with kids, right? But in retrospect, say, oh yeah, this was good. Hadn't he or she done this, then I would have taken the entire team off course, or so the stronger the correction, the easier. I mean, the direction, perhaps, maybe not all the time, but the easier it might be to approach, how you correct somebody, because the why for correction is stronger.
And it depends on the situation too, where I can't remember who was giving an analogy, but I'm going to borrow it. If I remember, I'll give attribution. But they were saying, if they were at the stove with their kid and the stove is hot, the fire is there, and their son is going over to place their hand on the hot stove, right? He said, I'm not going to be, oh, son.
Right. Right. There will be a sense of urgency.
Like, boy, if you don't get back,
remove thy hand promptly.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And this is a great question too. Why is the rod of correction so difficult at work, home, or church? Anywhere, right? There says, I consider myself a leader, but hate that aspect of it. I don't know a lot of leaders that like that part.
Yeah, unless you're an authoritarian.
Yeah. No one likes delivering bad news or corrective instruction or doing those performance evaluations where you have to talk about, okay, these are the aspects of your job that we need you to elevate. We need you to level up on. No one likes doing that part, but it's a necessary part. And I could I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks about why it's so difficult wherever we live, work, and play, doing that, establishing and leveraging that rod of correction. So I'm gonna let that hang for a bit and let people come back and answer. Suri says, not just words, you're gonna put your hands on them before they put their hands on that stove. Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't even say anything.
I don't know where those sound effects came from. Yeah.
Oh man.
This part, and this is
you kind of answered it a little bit though, the likability piece,
man.
But that's just one aspect. You know?
Yeah. God, whom God loves, God corrects.
Yeah, let's go there. So, if my memory serves me correctly, that reference is actually from, and I might have brought it up last week, where they were making a mockery of communion. But not necessarily a mockery, but they're playing around with it.
Yeah, you were.
That is a mockery. And how what God then decided to do, they weren't condemned to hell, y'all. They were still saved, but he made some sick. He even took some of their lives to preserve the sanctity of what the practice of commemorating Jesus's crucifixion was all about, his mission here, right? And the crazy thing is, in that correction of illness and death, of illness and death, God was doing that from a perspective of grace.
Yep.
Taking them before they would ruin their salvific opportunity.
I was having a conversation with an executive a couple of weeks ago. We were having dinner, and he said he had to make a phone call. And the phone call was like, man, we pay you a really good salary. It was like just a casual call. He said, man, we pay you a really good salary, and you are not performing. And you know that, don't you? Well, he says you already know the next decision we're going to have to make. And it's not that you've just been underperforming. We've extended grace for a long time. And here's what he said though, bro, as we're eating, he said, and I told him, and he said, and I knew in my heart that making this decision would be good for him. We got to let him go. But making this decision is going to be good for him because he would now be able to course correct. If we had just left him at his job,
listen here,
everything else would have fallen apart. And he's like, he's like, I don't like having these conversations. They're tough calls. I don't want to deliver this news. But me telling him, man, you got to go, was probably the best thing for him because of how far he had fallen as it relates to performance and grace and opportunities within the organization. And sometimes the course correction is the repositioning. Okay, you're not in the right spot. Sometimes it's, man, your behavior is not acceptable. Sometimes it's, man, we think it's time that you seek employment or ministry opportunity or living elsewhere.
In the name of the Lord Jesus, you must call a meeting of the church. I will be present with you in spirit, and so will the power of our Lord Jesus. Then you must throw this man out and hand him over to Satan so that his sinful nature will be destroyed and he himself will be saved on the day the Lord returns. 1 Corinthians chapter 5.
Some people just got to go.
Because it does them good.
Good.
He said he will be saved by being removed.
They got to go.
And the meeting wasn't to have a meeting to vote.
Well, I think I've only been fired once.
Yeah.
I've been fired one time in my life. And it wasn't even like, yo, you're fired.
Yeah.
I was working.
This hurts me more than it hurts you, kind of a thing.
I was working 3 jobs at once.
Mm-hmm.
I was working 3 jobs at once. This was a campus job. So it lets you know how far back it was. And the person was like, man, we really like you, but you're not putting the hours in.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
We can't pay you anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a moment where I'm like, man, I'm pretty good at all 3 of these jobs, but I don't have the bandwidth. And I need to stop saying yes to so many things or it's going to destroy me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would have had that conversation or that realization or acceptance if they hadn't been like, yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah.
And it was real cool, like real chill. It wasn't like,
yeah,
rub me in and say, hey, we need to talk. No, you haven't put in your hours. You committed to X number of hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't put them in, man. Like we don't have anything to fill out on the sheet to show that you've been doing your thing.
Yeah.
And like we still cool, but
business is business.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
And I remember I needed that. Yep.
From the beginning, y'all.
From the beginning, y'all gotta go. And I think that really dovetails into our final one in this, and it's the heart of the shepherd. And that's simply the idea of you have to pay the price for the role and responsibility that you have.
Yeah.
And we know of people who've just wanted the titles, who've just wanted the benefits, the perks, but didn't want the responsibility. You got to be with, there's a price.
Yeah.
Like, how much is given? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times with all the pieces we've talked about before, this piece is not always visible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't always tell when people have a heart for this work and taking care of people, that responsibility. We're talking about the context of a business book where in the fable, the graduate student is listening to his professor talk about sheep and saying the way to be a great shepherd is to have a heart for your sheep.
Yeah.
We apply that in the business context. With the great, y'all, let me tell y'all, a good part of the great resignation that's happening across the country are people saying, I don't want to work for a person that doesn't value me. I do not want to be in a place where people don't care about me.
Long gone
I would
the
rather
days.
stay home, flip eBay. I'd be flipping eBay. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I need to do better with that. Started, but
I met a guy who got like a 30,000 square foot warehouse. He's killing it right now. Yeah,
oh my goodness. Yeah, long on the days of loyalty. You know,
I will pick the
or allegiance to the corporate.
I'll pick the gig economy.
Yeah, over staying at one spot for 30 years and choosing to retire. Those days are over. It doesn't
matter where you are.
Yeah,
corporate, nonprofit, education, whatever industry. You could be a shift director, a shift leader at a fast food restaurant, church ministry, at home. You got to have a heart and be willing to sacrifice for the people around you. Like that's what shepherds do.
Yeah.
You got to give. You got to stretch. And even though this is a business book that's built off biblical principles, sometimes we're so key on the message of Jesus sacrificing for us. But when it comes down to my wife and kids, when it comes down to my ministry role, when it comes down to my team, I see it all over social media, all the subtweets, man, all the reshared messages, people talking about how they're in spaces where it's clear their leader doesn't care about them and doesn't stretch for them. And people are suffering.
Yeah.
And if you're a Christian leader, if you're a leader who believes in Jesus, no matter the space and place where you lead, you will follow the way of the shepherd. All puns intended. That's it.
Ain't nothing else.
We $2 in.
That was a rhetorical question. It was not. Yeah, this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Chocked with wisdom from the next level leadership development consultant himself. Shh, just take it, just take it, just take it.
No, chock full of wisdom from the book, available on Amazon. The Way of the Shepherd: 7 Secrets to Managing Productive People, here on Worship and Word Conversations.
I knew he'd find a way to spin it.
Yeah,
but he's not wrong. But he's not wrong. So number 1, know your condition of the flock. Number 2, discover the shape of your sheep. Number 3, help your sheep identify who you are before. Make your pasture a safe place. Number 5, the staff of direction. Leverage that along with number 6. Got to have the rod of correction. Lastly, number 7, you need to have the heart of the shepherd. Capital S. Yeah. This was great, man.
Man, let me take this last comment. Cerise already telling us to go pray.
Yeah.
So, Pastor Elliot Brooks, recent, again, we want to celebrate, man, your graduation, man.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name of the article, but they did a survey of employees from major companies in the country and asked them to put in order what is the most important attribute they desire from their leader. Hey, Hazel, this answers the question too. How do you know if you're a good leader? Survey results said number 1, they genuinely cared about us. At 10, they know what they're doing. Yep.
Yeah.
Most important.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's it. I know it's a lot. And because it's a lot and you think about the scope of your leadership and what you're called to do, and you're thinking about Monday or even thinking about the next few minutes with your family and friends, it kind of weighs heavy on you. And I think that puts us in an excellent place to go pray. Read or skim, figure out how we can all be shepherds in our various places. But you know.
Go pray.
They already know.
They already know.